Good morning, everyone. Today, what we're going to look at, and let me see if I can make that larger one more time. There we go. Today, what we're going to look at is parabolas that are in the form of x equals. So we're going to continue with parabolas, which we started talking about yesterday. We did fill this out yesterday, that we could have x equals a times y minus k squared plus 8. So our vertex is still the point HK, and our focus, this time we talked about yesterday, is going to be H plus P, and our directrix is going to be the vertical line x equals H minus P. So what that would look like is a parabola that opens sideways. So it's going to open something like this. Our focus would be inside the parabola and our directrix would be here. Alright, so let's look at some examples about how these equations might look. Example 1. We have x equals 2 times y minus 3 squared plus 1. So our vertex is the point. This is our x. The opposite of this is our y. So it's going to be 1, 3. This one's positive, so it will open right. And all we have left to do now is to figure out what p is. So if we set our a, which is 2, equal to 1 over 4p, and we solve this, you can either cross multiply, you may be able to look at it and tell. If we cross multiply, we get 8p equals 1, so p equals 1/8. And so when we go to sketch it, we'll put our vertex at 1, 3. We'll put our focus over 1/8, our directrix back 1/8. And if we double 1/8, we get 1/4. So we'll go 1/4 this direction, 1/4 this direction, and draw in our parabola. Now if we did it the other way, our moves say if we go over 1, we go up 2. So it just looks like this, and that would also fit. So you can use either form. So when you're asked for the focus, we added the 1/8 to our x, so it's 1 1/8. And for the directrix, we had to subtract that 1/8, so it's x equals 7/8. Example 2. We have x minus 3 equals negative 1/16 y plus 2. So what we would do here is get it in the correct form. We know our vertex is the point 3, negative 2. We know this one is going to open left because there's a negative. Let's go ahead and sketch this graph. We're over 3, down 2. There's our vertex. Now let's find our p. So we set negative 1/16 equal to 1 over 4p. That's a p. I keep wanting to draw a y. You may be able to tell from looking at this that p is negative 4. You might need to cross multiply and solve. That's fine. So we would go negative 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. This is going to be our directrix. Go 4 this way, 2, 3, 4. There's our focus. And since p is 4, we can go up 8 and down 8 from our focus to get 2 points. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then we'd go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So somewhere way down here. And this one's going to be nice and wide. And it would look like that. Oops. Let's try to make it go through the vertex. There we go. So our focus once again is at negative 1, negative 2. Our direct is at x equals 7. Okay, let's try it a different way, given different information. So for number 3, let's say I told you the focus is the point -1, 0, and the directrix is x equals 1. So let's sketch what we have here. The focus is the point -1, 0. There's my focus. The directrix is x equals 1. So here it is. Well, every time we go P on either side of the vertex, so the vertex has to be directly in the middle. The vertex has to be this point here. So we know our vertex is 0, 0. Okay, we also know which way it's going to open. It has to open left. How do we know that? Because the directrix is here and the focus is here. The focus is always inside the parabola. Now, we also know what P is. We know P is 1. So since we know that A is 1 over 4P, in this case, it's 1 over 4 times 1, then we know that A is 1/4. But we also know it opens left, so we know that A is actually -1/4. So now I have everything I need for my equation. X equals, because it opens left, -1/4, y minus 0, so I don't even need the parentheses, plus 0. And then to graph it, since P is 1, I would double that, go over 2P on each side to finish my graph here. And hopefully you can do a better job than I'm doing. And that's what your graph looks like. Okay, let's try another one like that. Number 4. Our vertex is the point 0, 0. And our focus is the point 0, -0.25. Okay, so we're given some of the information, but not all of it. Let's sketch it and see what I think's going on here. Vertex here, focus is at 0, -0.25. So if the focus is here, it has to be opening down. So if the focus is down -0.25, then the directrix is up, -0.25. So I'm starting with my graph here. So I know this is going to be a y equals. We know it's y equals. We know it's negative. We don't know what A is yet. We know it's x squared. So all we have to do is figure out what goes here. Because our vertex is at 0, 0, we're good. So to figure out what goes there, we take this distance for P, which we know is that 0.25. Set that equal to 1 over, hold on, try again, second take. Okay, so since A is 1 over 4P, all we have to do is plug that P in. So we have 1 over 4 times the 0.25. And 0.25 times 4 is 1. So it's just a -1 here. And you don't even need the -1. You could just write y equals -x squared. Okay, let's look at one where we have to complete the square. It's just like completing the square on a circle. Just kind of reminding you here because we've already done completing the square. This is just completing the square with a parabola. As we talked about yesterday, we know it's a parabola because only one of the variables is squared. That's the one I want to solve. So I'm going to complete the square with the other. So my first step here, I'm going to move that 4x over. It'll make it a little easier for me, I think. And now I complete the square. I take half and square it, so I'm going to add 9 here. Whatever I add to one side, I must add to the other, so I'll add 9 there. So here, this becomes y minus 3 squared. Here, I have -4x plus 18. I move the 18 over. And I'll divide everything by -4. So when I'm here, I'm going to go ahead and put that coefficient out in front that I'm used to seeing. So this is where the -1/4 comes from, because this is an understood one. So I get -1/4 times y minus 3 squared plus 18 divided by 2. We could simplify this or we could divide it. Okay, so vertex is the point, 4.5, 3. This is my x. The opposite of that is my y. I can find p, since I know that a is 1 over 4p. I can set the a, which is negative 1/4, equal to 1 over 4p. And I can see that p is negative 1. So, if I went to sketch it, I know that it's at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so it's halfway in between 1, 2, 3. So 4.5, 3. I know my p is negative 1, so if I go 1 that way, there's my focus. If I double that and go up 2 and down 2, there are 2 points that the parabola must pass through. So it's going to look just like this. And I know my directrix will be 1 unit over, so it's going to be halfway in between there. So my focus is the point 3.5, negative 3, no, positive 3. And my directrix is the equation x equals 5.5. Okay, I have one more example that I'd like to save to do with you guys tomorrow, so if you'll remind me of that, I'll do that with you tomorrow, and do the best you can on your assignment.